This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Speaking of attention.
Well, we should pay attention to the book series that we're reading.
Yeah, we should pay attention to the death of Tuon, which was not quite as formal and or not quite as final as some of us may have wished.
I mean, but it's her dead name now, right? So in a lot of ways, it is the death of the name Tuon.
Yeah. I'm unimpressed by this logic, but that is clearly the logic she is working with.
Even though For Tuona contains Tuon.
Which I can't believe I never noticed that until you pointed it out. What?
Whether or not, which one came first, the chicken or the egg, one contains the other for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to our points about dyslexia, right? Like, I don't need to know how words are spelled.
Right.
Why would I notice that Tuon is in For Tuona? That's completely irrelevant to what's happening.
Which is, of course, fortune, right? Which means she's Lady Luck, which means Matt married Lady
literally.
Luck, right? Like, there's that whole pun.
Because of course he did.
Of course he did. Like, thanks, Jordan, for the pun.
Yeah, and then I'm just like, really? So her entire name is just a pun for being his wife? Like, oh my God, we have dog cam. We had 5 seconds of dog cam.
He jumped up in my
so
lap.
Sweet.
He's very sweet.
His big, expressive eyes.
Mm-hmm. He's a little wall-eyed. He kind of looks about both ways, but he's okay. I know I'm recording a podcast right now. I'm gonna have to shut him out because we're never gonna get this done with him constantly demanding my attention in here. As much as I love him, go on.
Spadoinkle, I don't know that you're the only person here who likes Tuon. What do we mean by like? Do we mean would have a beer with her? Do we mean like reading her? Do we mean like served points for the plot? Because I like to rag on her because of the whole slave empire thing, but like I do like her as a part of the story. I don't like how she ends, but that's partially because of how good everything before the ending was, right? Like, that's why it sucks that it lands the way it does at the end.
I wanted to see her have that realization that, my empire is based on slavery. I'm one of the people who could be enslaved if I just made different choices. Maybe let's have some empathy for the people who are collared and do something about it. And if nothing else, just have that moment of going, that's a problem. Just that.
Right.
That one moment where she realizes that instead of just being like, no, y'all are fucked up. The best solution is the collars, definitely. Right. That's why I find Tuon frustrating as a character, because the redemption isn't there. And Matt marries her and then doesn't really try and redeem her. And that to me also feels on a meta level like something that Sanderson shied away from that I feel like he shouldn't have. And that frustrates me. Because there was a couple of character arcs like that he just didn't complete, that maybe he ran out of time, maybe didn't have the place for it. I mean, it was a long ass book already.
But no, Jordan set up Satala Anan to be a solution, to be that off-ramp for her, to be that person who starts her on the path towards being de-radicalized to being a slaver. And then Sanderson explicitly said no. You can see it on the page where he looks at that opportunity and turns it down. And it's like, but Jordan laid it up for you.
Yeah. Lillian, I disagree. I believe there is an arc. The whole being stuck in the wagon with the Aes Sedai, having to deal with them in the circus, right, as people. She sees them as people, right? She has that experience to reflect back on and be like, okay, these women were actually in control of themselves.
I agree with Seth. I think it, I see what you mean, Lillian. It's not as strong as it should have been, but Sanderson could have, and he didn't. And it's just, I wanted to have the Seanchan coming in to save the day at the end as the Americans in World War II. I wanted that to land with so much more oomph, because it's the wheels that are turning in her head, but we know the wheels are turning in a wildly different direction. But whatever.
Yeah. No, and Lil G, making a point. There's no evidence of her actually making progress, right? It's just the situation she was in seemed prime for her to then reflect on it.
Yes. And then Sanderson and Tuon both said, nah. It was a lead your horse to water and then it refuses to drink. It's like, but you know.
And that's why I want to hold her head underwater until she fucking drinks, you know, like.
Right, yeah. But that's the thing is like Jordan had her stubborn, but able to change, and then Sanderson said no. I don't want to take that. Which like it would have been a hard curve, but it wouldn't have had to be like she fixed the Empire while doing the last battle. All we wanted was for her to realize that she's wrong. That's all we wanted. We didn't need her to like come up with a solution, much less enact it. We just needed her to realize that a solution was required. And we didn't even get that. Yeah, Logan, my headcanon is that her and Matt get divorced when she refuses to let Bode Cawthon off the leash. My headcanon is that somehow Bode Cawthon ends up collared, and then Matt's like, my sister or my wife? Obviously, I'm picking my sister. Fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's someone else proposed that several years ago on the server, and I think that's the best headcanon for that. I mean, I'm sorry, Bode Cawthon, that's going to happen. But, like, we don't know that she wasn't taken in the raid on the White Tower. So, Pants, you are okay. Nice, excellent. That was a long time ago, right? Like that's an old headcanon. That's from many years ago.
I just imagine the journey takes longer. That he has to go and like convince her, and it takes many, many, many years of deprogramming to get her to admit.
I mean, the long game is a strategy, also for sure. But if his family is threatened, I think that he drops Tuon like a hot potato. For Tuon.
Yeah, for Tuon. Just a note, I'm going to keep calling her Tuon. For Tuon is such a pain in the ass to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is this podcast policy that she is Tuon. Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel like that's a disrespectful dead naming, because like, what are you doing? What? No. Keep your damn name. God.
But I guess we could to differentiate between the two, but it's whatever. It's Tuon. I'm gonna tear into it anyway. The reason I don't even know why we're talking about Tuon. This chapter barely even touches on her. It's like 3 paragraphs at the end, right? Like this is a Verin chapter.
Yeah, let's get into the Verin of it all, despite the title of the chapter.
Like there's some Verinness, and like. How do you rate the Verinness of this chapter?
I mean, I kind of love it.
From your dress is green to Moraine sent me. Like,
oh my, right? It bridges both. It literally bridges both because she's sipping tea the whole time. Like the tea keeps getting focused on and keeps getting focused on and keeps getting focused on. I'm just like, it's Verin and a cup of tea. Oh no.
Oh, see, what I found was the bench that they keep mentioning.
Oh, that too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll talk about that.
No, I loved it. I loved the Matt Verin interaction. I even really liked Matt here. This to me just felt like such peak Wheel of Time, because yeah, we've got the bench like with Egwene, and we've got Verin just with her tea and her letters, and we've got Matt with his like running narrative about the bench. Just no, I enjoyed it very much. I do feel like there's a little bit of the Sandersonian like fourth wall breakiness where Matt's thinking about how Verin is putting on a show, but also like we are in Verin's end game, so like cards on the table is the vibe. It's fine.
No, and the next bit of Verin is very Verin and very good, right? Because like we're going to the end of and you said end game Verin.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Sanderson's like really just savoring his penultimate moment with her, and like, how can I be mad about that? We all are.
And I also wasn't this something that Jordan had planned in the notes?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not versed on that lore. Doesn't surprise me though. This feels like it was baked deeply into the way he had the world set up. Like Verin was always going to do something like this, I think. Like I don't know specifically.
I always wonder when she wrote her cipher, right? Because remember, she was like, oh, one of these days I have to sit down and write a cipher for this book so someone else can read it. And then when she gives it to Egwene, she includes the cipher.
Yeah, I was wondering when I came across that line recently. I was just like, wait, so she didn't write the little book until well into the series? Like I always kind of assumed until recently. But yeah, no, she wrote the cipher somewhere between.
I think she wrote it while she was being stalled. So I think she has it now.
Oh.
Right. She had to have taken the bookmark from Tarvalin. Right. Well, no, she probably has the bookmark already for her.
I bet she's had the bookmark
Yeah.
for decades, if not centuries.
But yeah, no, I bet that she's writing it now. 'Cause she's like stuck. She's studying things, right? And she's making her basically final plan. She's trying to get to Tarvalin to turn over her book of dark. And she has to have made a cipher for that.
But she couldn't have risked making a cipher without knowing when she was going to hand it over. It wouldn't have been a thing that she just carried because she made the That's my only question is like, can you hold a cipher like that in your head and like not fuck up without the key?
She invented it, right? Like,
but she's Verin, right? Verin knows. Verin is our neurodivergent autistic queen. She knows. She knows.
Don't question her.
And also, like, historically speaking, many people have
Right.
worked out ciphers entirely in their heads. And like, yes, many historical examples of that being a thing. So
It's like learning another language.
it's impressive as hell. It's impressive as hell to come up with a cipher that is incomprehensible, hold it in your head, write your entire book without ever making a serious, translation error. And then write the cipher only at the end. That's an incredible mental feat. But yeah, if ordinary people in the real world can do it, Verin definitely can.
Also, think about how long she's had to do it and practice it, right?
Yeah.
If you can master a skill.
I love the idea that she's realizes she's caught in this Verin thing, realizes that like she's probably in her end game and having to make her final moves and is like, well, I guess what I'm going to do with this time is write the cipher because I have nothing better to do while I wait for this Verin thing to play out. I love that idea. This is specifically done in the boredom, waiting for Matt to show up.
That's my headcanon. I don't have no evidence for it, but yeah.
I'll take it. I will buy it on sale at Target.
Do you want to give us a read-in and actually start this chapter?
It's a Matt POV. Technically.
Oh, I thought it was a Verin POV. No, you're right. It is Matt POV. I'm sorry.
It's a Verin focused, but Matt's the one doing it.
We're staring each other down, waiting for the other one to start the read-in.
I had no idea. You were waiting for me.
Chapter 36, The Death of Tuon. And we have a snake in the wheel, right?
Yep, because Verin is moving the pillars of Earth itself with her sneakiness.
Changing the warp and the weave. All right. I began my journey in Tyr, Verin said, sitting down on Matt's best chair, made of dark walnut with a nice tan pillow. Thomas took up position behind her, hand on the pommel of his sword. My goal was to make my way to Tarvalin. Then how did you end up here? Matt asked, still suspicious as he seated himself on the pillowed bench. He hated the thing. It was completely impossible to sit on it in any way that was comfortable. Pillows didn't help. Sometimes they made the seat more awkward. Bloody thing must have been designed by insane, cross-eyed Trollocs and built from the bones of the damned. That was the only reasonable explanation. He shifted on the bench and nearly called for another chair, but Verin was continuing. Mandovin and Talmanis were just inside the tent, the former standing with folded arms, the later settling himself on the floor. Tom sat on the floor on the other side of the room, watching Verin with calculating eyes. They were all in Matt's smaller audience tent, which was intended only for short conferences between officers. Matt hadn't wanted to bring Verin to his actual sitting tent, as it was still spread out with his plans for raiding True Stare.
I love how Matt just casually has multiple tents for meeting people and doesn't even comment on it. Like, okay, Lord Matt.
They're on the move, but yeah, no, he's got I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he just has a regular tent and a special tent. Like, sir, you do not get to call yourself not a lord when you have a smaller meeting tent as opposed to your regular sitting tent.
And a mahogany bench that they've been carrying with them this whole way. You know how heavy that is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's not even comfortable.
Yeah. That's not particle board. That's solid wood.
All right, so I counted it, they mentioned the bench 8 times in this chat of him, like, being uncomfortable on the bench. What is going on there? Do you have, I feel like there has to be, obviously the Amerlin seat was sitting on the Amerlin seat, which was folding underneath her because it had an unstable base. Like, it was really clear in that situation. And I was wondering, is Sanderson just mentioning it because it's uncomfortable and he wants Matt to be uncomfortable around Verin because she's Aes Sedai? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, Yeah, because I was trying to draw that parallel as well, and I think it's partially just there for comic relief, just to have Matt squirming, like, and it's not Verin, quote unquote, it's just the bench, but then so it's funny. But I think maybe also it's like his discomfort with Aes Sedai and with going to the Tower of Genji and with leadership, like just all the pressures that are on him. He's just kind of squirming under all of it, under his Tavirinness. I mean, he's really pushing back at his Tavirinness here. So maybe it's just that kind of discomfort. But yeah, it doesn't feel quite as layered and subtle as with what I mean. The Egwene thing was not subtle, but it felt like there was more layers to it. This feels like there's less layers to it, but I do think that there are a couple layers, a little bit.
There's a couple layers. Yeah. Well, and I like this little bit where he says, yeah, he doesn't really remember her, but he remembers her being a very mousy brown, and now he looks at her and he's like, yeah, now I see the mousy brown as a mask. And as a wink and a nod, I see it. She sees that I see it. She knows she's going to continue to play the mousy brown, and I'm going to play along with that. But we both know something else is going on here.
Yeah, which I like. I do like it. I really like the byplay. I like that it shows that Matt's intelligence score has increased, you know.
And I like the unconscious communication that's going on between them as well.
Yeah, I do really like that. It's a nice sense of, oh, these characters have progressed and are in a different place than they were before. And I also like the parallel to Rand noticing that Selucia was the bodyguard, right? Like Rand and Matt are both saying, I see your facade and I see what's going on underneath it. And I do like that. But also I'm like, world building wise, if Matt can pick up on her deception, then shouldn't everyone else be? Like throughout her life, throughout the decades? Or is she hamming it up for him?
I'm assuming she's hamming it up for him a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Because she knows the soldiers are not her toughest crowd ever.
Right. And she kind of knows that, like, to Verin, this is what you need. Like, I don't really have to, I can pretend to be a little clever with him because, like,
and it is fun.
Yeah.
The unspoken byplay is very fun to watch, especially because Matt doesn't call her out on it and she knows he won't. And it's just like,
but she's been involved a little too far. Like, we are right before the last battle. She is absolutely like, I am on your side. I've been involved since the very beginning. Like, it's no longer like, oh my God, I know that Rand's the Dragon Reborn. You know, like everybody knows that, you know, so she doesn't really have to hide some of her allegiance in the same way, I feel like. Because then, like, Matt remembers she was there at the beginning.
Yeah, no, for sure. Him and her traveled together to Falm. They both went through Flicker, right? Like they've been through some stuff together. They've known each other since more or less the beginning.
Really, one of the longest periods of time in book 2 was them traveling together. Now, he was unconscious for a big chunk of that.
But not for the trip out, though. Like the entire hunt for the horn process, he was not Dagger Matt because he had been healed and he didn't possess the dagger anymore.
Right.
And they were traveling together. Like he wasn't unconscious until the trip back.
Mm-hmm. And he wasn't unconscious until the very end of that, really.
Right, yeah, he was conscious for a good chunk of it. So, yeah, in terms of Aes Sedai that he spent time with, Verin is
probably number 1.
Second only to Moraine, if not ahead of Moraine.
Yeah. Because that was a long period of time. That journey was like...
Yeah, months.
Yeah.
Book 2 takes the longest period of time, and like they both went through Flicker. So, you know, they really both had the... So, yeah, it does make sense that she's kind of like, you know that I'm more than just another Aes Sedai, because I've been here since book 2, and we got all the time together. You know I'm more than just an Aes... Because, of course, it's me. Not any other Aes Sedai you're running into. I
have to wonder if Flicker affected some of what she did here when she knew, like, when it was time.
Yeah, when she says, I never thought that I would ... Like, one assumes that is kill myself to fix everything. Because the whole reason she's a dark friend is because she didn't want to die. So, of course, she would never have thought that she would kill herself in order to serve the greater good. Like, that was a line too far 70 years ago, so she would never think it would work now. So yeah, I do think that maybe this is part of her, kind of like the Aiel rings, being like, oh, I'm starting to see the signs of what could happen. Like, I know what's going to happen next. And she's like, all right, I know I'm endgame. I'm just going to wink and nod at everyone. I have no major secrets left to hide aside from the one, which I'm actively in the act of going to deliver, right? She's essentially already in the act of going to Egwene, right? She knows where this ends.
Mm-hmm.
There's still the Oath Rod question, but like...
And she's hoping she can get the Oath Rod, right? But like, that's definitely a 50-50 shot, I think, on her part.
At best.
At best,
She
yeah.
knows that it's a 50-50. Like, it's a coin toss if she can get it. It's a coin toss if the Dark One's O's can be removed so easily, right? Like, she has no idea if it will work. So, yeah, she's laying it on a little thick. Because, yeah, like, Telmanis and the band are not going to be scrutinizing her to see if she's a correct Aes Sedai. Like, there's no need. There's no need. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. She talks a little bit about Verin, talks a little bit about Rand. I like this. Is he, mad? Verin asked. Matt nodded. I'm afraid so. Like, Verin, again, yes, he's mad. Verin is telling us he's mad. He's been bad for a while. He's still in control of himself. He still hasn't lost himself to the madness, but he's seeing things that aren't there, hearing voices that don't exist. Like, he's mad and has been for a while.
But also, she emphasizes it's not just the taint that makes him mad. He's also going mad from the pressure of being the Dragon Reborn in the socio-political context and all the assassination attempts and all the different factions and traveling the world and ruling all these countries. Like, he's going insane from that as much as from the taint, which is something that I really appreciated when she said that because, yeah, no one ever talks about the human strain that he's going under. It's all about the magical fantasy world strain, but like he's under some really intense human pressure too.
I feel like we talked about it during Dragon Reborn when we talked about how it felt like he got really insane and then less insane, and how that was really the stress, right? Like finding out you were actually the Dragon Reborn, you were destined to die, you have to sacrifice, go through pain, do all these things. Like you hear the Koreathon cycle for the first time and you're just like, oh my god, that's what I have to deal with. Like, he went a little nuts, right? He killed that woman, right? And like that's something that's just like, whoa, way out of left field, and something that took books and books and books for him to get back to, and was like the tipping point with Semirog, right? Like, that has got him touching the dark power. And it felt like, oh yeah, he was going, and part of that might be just the way Jordan was writing the books, that he thought there were going to be fewer books, so he made him more insane quicker. But like the way we sort of phase it is, yeah, he doesn't have the same pressure, or he's adjusted to the pressure a little bit.
Yeah, and Verin's saying, essentially, she's imagining if the timeline of when the books were published versus like how many books there are versus plot like made sense. Like, she's essentially speaking to a world in which RJ meant for it to be a 14-book series, or where somehow all of this has happened in 3 books. Like, either way, what she's saying is congruent to that, as opposed to the more janky experience the readers had.
She tells him about the taint being cleansed, and he sort of gets the implications of it more than almost anybody else has in the series. Like, we finally get somebody going, whoa, that's a big deal.
Yeah, which I kind of like. You know what? Maybe they are friends, because I like that one of Rand's oldest friends ever is the person who immediately understands what Rand understood about it as a world-changing event. Like, okay, I guess you guys were friends, and like maybe are still friends, because your minds do still run in the same kind of ways.
And also, like, that does mean that like Rand won't get more insane, except he is, but that's a whole different thing.
Well, again, the human pressures are not going to let up, and the traumas are not going to let up. Only the increase of taint is going to let up. And like, yeah.
And there's still plenty of taint
there. The cup's already overflowing. It doesn't really matter if you stop pouring. It's just going to hit surface tension. Like, whatever.
The next little bit is about Verin talking about how she got caught on her journey. I found it a little cartoonish.
Yeah, it's a montage of funny cartoon moments.
Yeah.
For sure. What I find more interesting is just tracking the cup of tea she has. Like, she asks for tea, and then Matt nods to Talmanes, who actually gives the order, and then she's like sipping this cup of mint tea the whole time, and I'm just like watching it being like, I know it's not poisoned. I know it's not poisoned.
Not
but like
this
the
time.
next time she has a cup of tea on screen, it's going to be her last cup of tea. This is her penultimate cup of tea. So I found that more interesting.
And I think this is also a really good way for him to be like, ignore the cup of tea. The cup of tea doesn't matter. Ignore the cup of tea. And then in the next chapter, when it does matter, it's hiding in plain sight, right? Because you've ignored it in this chapter.
Right. You're just like, oh, Verin really cares about her tea. Like, we're just going to think about her tea when she's on screen. It's not a big deal. Nothing
It's just a personality
foreshadowy about
quirk.
that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like Sanderson's actually managing a real good foreshadow right there.
Totally.
Just like,
totally.
Because on a reread, you're like, no, not the tea. Don't drink tea, Verin. Even though you know it's not poisoned, and you know that when she drinks it, she's the one who poisoned it. So, like, yeah. But yeah, I agree. The montage of why she is here is it's silly.
It just stretches the believability of Verin. I kind of eye roll at some of the events a little bit.
Yes, precisely. So anyway, I don't know that we need to go through every incident.
I don't want to.
Yeah, it's literally 2 pages. And then we get to the end and Matt's like, but it still could be coincidence. And she says, coincidence is how being to Verin works. Yeah. Care to throw some dice on it? And he's like, no. And that's the end of the argument. That's really the conclusion. And she's like, that's how Verin works, dumbass.
And then she does bring up one other point, which is why me? Because there's other channelers who can create gateways. Why did it have to be Verin?
Aside from fan service.
Yeah, well, because you want it to be Verin, right? Yeah. No.
Exactly. Because everyone would have killed Sanderson if it had not been Verin.
Yeah, some unnamed or once named Aes Sedai he brings back to join.
Some random S named Aes Sedai.
Yeah. So, but she doesn't really answer why she had to be here, right? Other than pulling out the letters.
The flyers.
The flyers, but also, but then she gives him the letter, right? About the invasion. Makes a deal with him.
Right.
So I wonder if that's...
because he's going to Andor.
Yeah. If she's like, it's me because I'm the one who knows about the Trollocs invading through the gateway, so I can give you notice to save the city. What you needed was information, and I have that information.
That makes more sense than just giving him a heads up about the death threats and the flyers. Because I feel that was what I always thought it was that like she had the 411 on like, no, you need to be really careful. This is not someone interested in information. Someone's trying to kill you. Like, you need to go so far underground. That was what I always thought it was. But I think that you're right. In addition to that, which is like a by the by, you should be careful. But yeah, the fact that she's putting that note, because she says in the letter that she assumes he's opened it up like 2 days after.
Yeah, no, and you can see it. She smirks here when she does. She's like, oh yeah, you'll totally last 10 days, smirk. And it's like, yeah. She doesn't think he's going to last.
But he sets his entire will against it just because fuck you, that's why. And thus almost fucks everything up. Yeah.
Right. Because Two Rivers' stubbornness and all that jazz. Yeah,
exactly.
But he needed the warning that Camelin was being invaded, right? That's my assumption.
Yeah. No, that's her real reason. Cleverly disguised under the, oh, by the way, you're super going to get assassinated if you don't calling yourself Lord Crimson and growing a beard.
Right. I also love this. I received this paper, Matrim, from a dark friend. And it's like...
who believed I was another dark friend.
Yeah.
Which is not untrue.
Nope.
I mean, she's being scrupulously Aes Sedai here and speaking no word that is not true. Even though she doesn't have to. She is.
Mm-hmm. And she's saying this is different because this is Forsaken coming after you. This isn't... She doesn't say that, but basically, like, that's what we know is different about these commands.
Yeah, this is a fresh set of murder orders. This is not the standing murder orders you've been dodging for books. This is a fresh level of escalation.
Because I feel like all the previous ones were Dark Friends pledged to a Shamael, who were given the order to, because they were at the Dark Friends social. That's because, like, remember we kind of talked about how Dark Friends specifically were pledged to a Shamael because he kept coming back every 1,000 years, not to the Dark One.
Right, which I had not picked up until the podcast, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. And then Lanfear, that's one of the reasons Lanfear is always like, Dark Friends. They're just dumb, like...
They're just followers of one other Dark Friend. They're not actually, like, the whole thing. And
so he shared their image, right? Remember back in book 2, Dark Friends Social, he shares the image of the 3 boys with Dark Friends. but not with the other Forsaken and not with the followers of any of the other Forsaken.
Right. Just the cult of Ishamael.
You're right. And so now, instead of having the followers of one Forsaken going after them, they have the followers of multiple Forsaken coming after them.
Right. And Verin is not necessarily privy to all those details, but she knows enough to put together like, nah, your threat model needs an update. I also love how she says that wasn't the cost. That was a suggestion. One I think you should listen to with great prejudice. I love how she's like, you should be suspicious of what I say.
Yeah.
Like, wait, so does that mean I have to trust you or be suspicious? Like, how
Yes.
do you get, I love it. I love her. I love her so much.
So then we get the whole thing with the instructions, right? Where she tries to give him the instructions and he says, you'll follow these 10 days after you get to Camelin. And he's like, absolutely not. I'm not going to commit to doing anything, not knowing what it is, right? I'm never going to promise a favor to an Aes Sedai, like, which is so classically Matt, right? I'm not going to do what you say without knowing what it is you want me to do, which I think to me is the most frustrating part of these instructions, right? Is like Verin should have seen and known Matt well enough to know that he was not going to commit to an Aes Sedai getting her hooks into him, to quote with air quotes, right? Because by committing to do something where he doesn't know what it is, he could then be on the hook for years, right? To do and
right, yeah. Future favors are dangerous,
and especially for someone who will not break a promise, right? What if it was like, you will serve the Amarylline seat for the rest of your life? And he promised that for the gateway. And he's like, fuck, now I'm stuck doing that, right? Like, because Matt won't break a promise.
Right. And she says, I promise that it'll be fine. You won't, or she says, I think you won't find it onerous, because naturally defending Camelin is not going to be against his nature, particularly not with the amount of lead time that she's giving him. She's giving him the ability to get Camelin ready like a week before or weeks, I think, before the invasion. Whereas Talmanes and Alvar don't discover the note until the attack is basically underway. She was trying to give them a big heads up. It's like, couldn't you have given him something slightly more? Like, as an Aes Sedai, I solemnly swear that this is more to do with you going to Camelin than with any Aes Sedai whatsoever. Like, couldn't you have given him something? But no. Her Aes Sedai mistrust and his Two Rivers stubbornness lead to a lot more destruction of Camelin than was strictly necessary.
And I think the other reason is she really, at this point, still hopes she can get the Oath Rod, right? I hope to be able to return you and relieve you of the letter and send you on your way. So on one level, she's giving him the notice, but on another level, she wants to take the oaths off, take the note off of him, and go warn them about the invasion herself, because she's got rid of the oaths. So she's not a dark friend anymore, right? That's what she would like to be doing. So on one level, I think she's just like, yeah, I mean, this is definitely a backstop to a backstop, right? Like, I'm really hoping I don't have to use this.
Right. Yeah, I see that hope maybe clouded her judgment ever so slightly. And yeah, she can't tell him, take this and open it right away, because that would betray things. She has to say, take it and open it after the point at which I'm definitely dead or definitely free.
Right. And then there's a whole bit about, 50 days versus 30 days, 2 weeks. Yeah, the negotiation, whatever. It ends up being 30 days, right? It's going to take him 20 days to get to Camelin, which he says is 2 weeks. Remember, 10-day weeks here. Yeah. So it's like, he only has to basically wait an extra 10 days in Camelin, and it would take at least that long to build, to do everything. So he's gaining 30 days he's gaining 20 days in Camelin.
Right.
Right. So all that they talk about.
Yeah. And then when she hands him the note, finally, he sees that she has many, many others, right? She's got lots of these little seeds that she is casting to the wind before she goes for her final go at the White Tower and Egwene. She has a lot more visits to make.
I would also argue, here's the thing. She can't betray the Dark One, yet these letters betray the Dark One. She has to insist that he opens them after. That's the only way she can give these out. Because
it's a Schrodinger's betrayal if you haven't broken the seal yet.
Exactly.
As long as no one's read it, it doesn't count. As soon as someone reads it, it counts. So she has to exact an ironclad promise that it will happen after. It's loopholes within loopholes, this woman. And we know that Alana gets one of these.
Oh, interesting.
We don't know where any of the others go. Yeah, Alana vanishes and they find the envelope for this with the red wax on it.
Do they read the note?
No, the note's gone.
Okay.
It's just the outer wrapper thingy, but it's as described here. So I don't know who else gets one, but something. Oh, Athlon's saying that Rand and Galad each get one. How does Galad get one? Why would Galad get one?
Ooh, I feel like we have to do some research in this.
Curveball from the audience. What? I do feel like Rand getting one tracks. 13th depository. There we go.
So yeah, a lot of information about the one she sends to Rand. That's how he finds out about Matt and Stepaneus. Probably also told him that Weramon and perhaps Aniela are dark friends, even though he sees it in their eyes later, so I'm not sure about that.
I could see Verin cluing him in not knowing he was going to get Godsight.
That's where he gets information about Asalam, maybe in the Caroline Grass. So, and then the one to, sorry, this is a long article.
It is a long article. 13th depository is a very brown Aja thing.
So, I mean, it feels like the one to Alana was basically like, they're coming for you, like, run, girl, get out. And then later she ends up in the Borderlands, which feels like maybe she didn't get out in time and she got abducted with the letter.
Yeah, I always wondered if maybe Verin actually betrayed Alana, like as a necessary lost leader foil thing. But yeah, more likely she told Alana to get out and it wasn't in time, or Alana got out and like ran right into some other thing.
Because we know she ends up in Darkfriend hands, right? She's in the cave with Moradin, so Moradin gets a hold of her at some point. Is it possible? I don't think the letter could be a Darkfriend plot, right? Because they were sealed with the blood red thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's all Verin, for sure. And there is evidence of the Galad thing, too.
Yeah, that one I missed. Where's that?
It's even farther down. It's just below Alana's thing. But Perrin sees Galad tucking something into his pocket. A small letter, it appeared, with a red seal. Where had he gotten that? Then the discussion below that says that it's no idea who would have transmitted that, and it looks like Galad never opens it. So we don't really know much more than that, but it does match the description. So there's that reference.
Could be informing him that his brother is the Dragon Reborn.
Your mother ran off to the desert to give birth to the Dragon Reborn. Sorry, bro.
Seriously.
No, it may be. I mean, because who knows what kind of plots she's trying to stave off. You know, like we don't know what moving parts she's trying to anticipate that didn't fall out the way she thought they would. And she's just trying to make sure because she couldn't know that Gawain was going to communicate that to Galad while he was dying, right? That's totally outside of what she could expect. So yeah, maybe she thought it was important that he know that he have a blood connection to the Dragon Reborn. But he also hasn't opened the letter yet, so, you know, that maybe is a fourth age revelation for him to come to terms with as he's processing Gawain's death and all of that.
Right.
Fascinating. Well, I love 13th Depository. They go on, but man, are they exhaustive.
They know a lot.
Like, they don't go on meaninglessly. There's just a lot of information to collect. And then at the end of this, Matt says, somebody burn that bench. I cannot believe we carried it this far, which is a nice little bookend to the comic thread running underneath this whole conversation.
So I was just reading another thing about the letters, but it had less information. So
Nah, if it's not on 13th Depository, it's not going to be anywhere else.
So then that's the end of that POV, and then we switch to Tuon.
Then we go to Tuon, where we're all like, oh, did we get rid of Tuon? No, we just upgraded her. We evolved her. We leveled her up. She's a longer name now, even though it still has Tuon in the middle.
It's very, the queen is dead, long live the queen.
Yeah, for sure. And we join her as she is blessing the blood knives that are part of the raiding party. The raiding party is assembled, and they're kind of going through the final ceremonial preparations before taking off.
Mm-hmm. And these are the rings that Gawain ends up wearing.
These are how Egwene dies. Some of the rings that Gawain takes off of these people turn into why Egwene has to go Flame of Tarvalon at the end.
She didn't have to.
She thinks she did, and so that's what happened. But like these are the rings. These are the rings that Gawain makes those choices with.
But we could get this whole raiding party assembled. 200 members. So we got 200 members of soldiers, the Fist of Heaven. So that's soldiers.
The most elite soldiers. These are like the Navy SEALs of the Shanshan army.
50 Suldam and Damane pairs. So that's 100 people.
Yeah.
Is how I read that.
50 channeling points. Well, it's 50 points of channeling power, but yeah, 100 people.
And then the hundreds of Toroikan to transport them, as well as the 5 blood knives.
Yeah. So 305 people.
At least.
To say nothing of the attendant support staff that has to come with the Rockin', the flyers, right? Like all of that. Because like they say that the trip will take several days. So clearly a couple of Rockin' are coming along just to carry supplies for the trip, right?
Yeah, and they all have pilots that are flying them, right? And yeah.
Exactly. And they have to bring carrying capacity for the raid, right? They're going to get people. That is space, that is weight.
Right.
You have to leave space on your carrier to bring the human cargo back if the raid goes successfully. So they have to budget that too. And the trip back will take just as long as the trip out, right? In theory.
Right. And you're not foraging along the way, so you need supplies the whole way out and back.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot more than 305 people going, but 305 people are going to do the dirty work of the Empire.
And they're going in secret because they figured out that like the enemy has they have gateways or talking in dreams, right? Like they're like information is traveling way quicker than it should. Like we have flyers and they're still outpacing us. So we're doing this in secret. So we're leaving before dawn so no one can see us fly away. And we're not telling anybody about it. And we're going to just, stay away from civilization the whole way there.
And presumably fly at night instead of during the day and rest during the day.
And this is where they're flying over the Caroline grass. They're really cutting across that abandoned area that Perrin and Egwene were lost in because it's wilderness. There's nothing there between Thalma and Shanshan.
Right. And a grass sea is just as barren as the ocean or a desert in so many ways. Like you need a way to fast travel across it. There's nothing there for you as a person.
Thalma and Tarvalin.
There we go.
Yeah.
Geography. It's
Geography,
hard.
yeah.
But yeah, she's hoping that 300 people and their attendant staff come back. Those five are meant to stay and do as much damage as possible before they die. That's their entire mission, is just to be destructive wrecking balls and then explode in a blaze of glory.
Which they were terrible at, by the way. They were like killing like one person a day and like hiding in the shadows for ages. I think they were targeting the Emerald Seat, I think is the deal.
Exactly. They were trying to figure out how to get to the Amerlin Seat, and they figured that killing some Aes Sedai as test runs was a fine 2 birds with 1 scone situation.
But yeah, the pure black stone ring each one wore was a specialized ter'angreal that would grant them strength and speed and would shroud them in darkness, allowing them to blend in the shadows. The incredible abilities came at a cost, however, for the rings leached life from their hosts, killing them in a matter of days. Removing the ring would slow that process slightly, but once activated, done by touching a drop of one's own blood to the stone ring while wearing it, the process was irreversible. You idiot, Gawain.
I do like that we know how dumb Gawain is being from the very beginning, right? He gets the information at the last minute, but I like that we get the full download here. So that way, as soon as he sees those rings and reaches for them, we're all collectively screaming. I do like that order of information unveils.
And I believe she would know the word ter'angreal, right? She knows Aes Sedai, like they're aware of Angreal and ter'angreal and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they know that the Adom are ter'angreal.
Remember, Arthur Hawkwings honestly didn't split off that long ago.
It was 1,000 years, I think. Yeah, because that was when the calendar started. And we're up to the year 1000 by the time that the books are happening. And it was Arthur Hawkwing who started the new calendar. So it was a while ago. 1,000 years. I mean, a lot's happened in 1,000 years in our timeline, in our world. 1,000 years ago.
But considering Common is one language that everybody speaks everywhere, and it hasn't changed, and that's the only change that's happened in 3,000 years.
I know. We still do know about aqueducts. We still use Roman aqueducts and bridges. It's Roman bridges that people still travel across. It blows my mind.
And they didn't even have the power when constructing them.
No, they didn't. I mean, they had some kind of power, but not that power.
Slave power. Hey.
Well, and also really cool chemistry that took us a long time to rediscover.
Sure.
Their cement that was super tastic. Was it needed salt water in order to set super hard, and no one knew that in more modern times until someone was like, wait a second. So that wasn't slave power, but everything else that they did was. And it's like, look, I love the Roman Empire. I'm one of those people who's obsessed with the Roman Empire, but like, as a slave empire, like, that everything was slave powered.
And they define their slaves differently than we do, but
very differently. American chattel slavery was a serious, upgrade's the wrong word, but it was a new turning of the wheel on what slavery had been before, for sure. Roman slavery was a completely different beast with so many different levels that don't have modern analogs. They will soon if our oligarchic overlords have their way. But...
I was going to say, I don't know, office work, factory work, service work. I feel like there's some analogs there. Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't look into that too closely because history probably has nothing to teach us. Anyway.
Oh, God. Anyway, back to a fantasy world.
Yeah. So Fortuona thinks about how killing Damani instead of leashing them is a terrible waste, but anything to deprive the Dragon Reborn of resources is worth it, which is just wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
So many levels.
One, the raid actually gives him resources. Yeah.
As you were saying last time, Rand did not have the Aes Sedai as a resource. They really were not a resource to him. Like, if anything, you drove them closer to him because of doing this. Like,
because now they follow a leader who's closer to him. Although you can argue that Egwene isn't super close to Rand anymore.
Just really everything about Fortuna's Tuon's rationale here is just, it's wrong premise, wrong conclusions, wrong end result. Like, she's just wrong. She's just wrong. And she's morally wrong while doing it.
Mm-hmm. I love her the common people walked more confidently, more proudly.
My God.
They had an empress again. With all that was wrong in the world, this one thing was right again. Yeah, I mean, on one level, you do want to know somebody's in charge and it's not chaos at the top. But at the same time, like, I don't think people are like, yay, empress is, I don't know.
These people were doing fine without an empress.
I think she's
if we were talking about Sean Shan, then maybe that would help. But we're not talking about Sean Shan. We're talking about the city that you colonized like 2 weeks ago, invaded and conquered like 2 weeks ago, a month ago. This is, no, they are not more confident because they have an empress. Like, no, they're more confident because Beslan hasn't been executed the way his mother mysteriously was, right? If anything. And I don't know that they are more confident. I think you're projecting because you need to believe.
We're in Ebudar, not Falma, right? Which city are we in right now?
We're in Ebudar.
Ebudar, okay.
But the point stands. Like,
yes. Sorry, I was just I was saying Falma earlier because I got.
Oh, I didn't even notice because I know what city we're in. I was just like, I'm not even registering that.
No. My bad.
But yeah, it's I think she's projecting mostly. I think that she feels better, and so she sees people feeling better. It's just like she's like wants the blood to know that she saw 3 dewdrops fall off of a fresh spring rose this morning. And I'm just like, so you're running your empire off of the Empress had a nice walk in the gardens and thought of something to tell you that fit in with your omen structure so that way you'd feel good about going to the office today and doing war crimes? Like, I don't need your empire. Your empire is dumb.
So we get a description of the battle, how they're going to, this is all foreshadowing for the battle where they're just going to be like, attack the tower itself with people channeling from the backs of the Rockin. Instead of dropping the soldiers off at a point and then attacking on the ground, they're literally going to be like flying and channeling in the air, which is like kind of a cool foreshadowing and nice to see what's going to happen.
I do enjoy getting to see the battle from 2 perspectives, getting to see all these planning and logistics stages and then see what it's like on the ground for the other side. It's, again, Sanderson's ability to make battles something I can follow in a blow-by-blow way. This is part of that, too.
And his build up to it, right? This is really what makes the Sanderlanche so exciting, right? Is like we're really building to this battle and getting all the planning for it. And like in a lot of ways we can see the battle winding up as everyone is just deciding, yes, we are doing this. And then that accumulates in a really cool battle at the end, and we know it's coming. And so it's like, oh yeah, that to me is the quintessential Sanderlanche, is getting you excited for a battle that you know is coming and seeing both sides gear up for it.
And this is great practice for all of us, author and readers alike, for the last battle. Like, this battle at the White Tower has been in the works for a while. It's a warm-up round. It'd be like, all right, how are we going to do these big titanic battles that actually pit like the White Tower versus the Seanchan? Like, this is huge, and we're going to have a series of these scale battles for the last battle. Like, we need a warm-up round. We can't just go right into it.
And I like the way they do it, where it's not like all the forces of the Seanchan against all the forces of the White Tower. It's like it's a small raiding party to do damage, to take prisoners, unexpectedly. So you don't get the like, oh my god, the Seanchan could totally overwhelm the White Tower because they have so many channelers, but like the White Tower is far away, and I don't know. It's just, I like the way this works. I like the way it shows growth on both sides without like crushing one side or the other.
Right. I also like how the Seanchan put so many of their really valuable assets into this basket. I'm thinking of all the Rockin and Toe Rockin.
And the Soldam.
Yeah, and the Suldam. Like, they risk a lot of their like material, essentially, right? This is the wealth of the Seanchan Empire rather than the scale, really. Like, and they're risking a lot. If all of these Torrakin and Suldam go down, their entire fighting force on this side of the ocean will be severely impacted.
This is their fighter jet force, right? But they're not sending in any ground troops. And so they put all the money and all the effort into, building the fighter jets with the missiles on the back of them. And the missiles cost a lot of money and the fighter jets cost a lot of money. And it's a small force, but it's fighter jets in a world of, cannons.
Right. And then Egwene goes and knocks a lot of them out of the sky on their way out. And it's just like, that's like $1 billion per hit, man. Wow, that's going to hurt.
And that's her goal. Her goal is to make it costly for them to raid, right? That's her whole goal.
Yeah. And I like that the Seanchan are able to be hurt that bad by this. Like, that, I think, it makes it satisfying on both sides, because the White Tower itself is like super trashed. Egwene almost gets taken. But like, the Seanchan lose multiple Rockin with several Suldam on them. Like, that's not nothing.
So you're saying they're on a highway to the danger zone?
No. I mean, unfortunately, the Seanchan do see the raid as successful. They do consider the cost to be acceptable, which is frustrating. But I do like that the cost is high, even if they're just willing to accept it. I can't control that, but I can be happy that the cost was high.
And do we ever get final numbers on exactly how many women they took? I feel like we do, when she's going down the raid with the book of all the like Dark Friend, Taken, Dead, that sort of thing. Unknown.
Yeah, I think we get a couple of different fragmentary references to it. It's a lot. It's a big chunk of the towers. Fortuna is very happy with how many new channelers she gets to put leashes on. So it's a lot. But yeah, I do think we get numbers at some point.
I always look at them like, man, how many channelers of the White Tower can there be left, right? Because you had 1,000 at the beginning of the split, and then we get described like 300 are basically neutral, 300 are in the Rebel Tower, and 300 stay in the tower. And then a fifth of those are killed for being Dark Friends, and then a chunk of those of the ones in the White Tower are taken.
Well, a lot of the people taken in the raid are not full Aes Sedai, but they are considered full Marath Damani by the Seanchan.
Like,
so
accepted.
the numbers really change. The Seanchan say, we got so many channelers. The Aes Sedai, we lost so many of this kind of category of channeler. So there's a slight discrepancy there. Because even novices count as far as the Seanchan are concerned, but they don't they count for the Aes Sedai, but they are not Aes Sedai.
But between those big numbers and then just the individuals Aes Sedai we see die, right? Like, we see a lot of them die between Rand or, get captured by Rand, that sort of thing. There can only be like 100 Aes Sedai left in the freaking tower.
Good thing Egwene has like 1,000 fresh novices not in the tower at the time of the raid, able to come in and repopulate the tower.
Seriously.
Like, can you imagine if she had reconciled the tower before? There would have been so many more targets for the raid. But no, all of those other women were safely on the other side of the river, you know?
But think how big of a circle, how many circles they could have had if they had all the novices working together.
Well, yeah, maybe they could have repelled the raid entirely. The what ifs. They hurt. The one last thing in the chapter I wanted to ask you about is how much do you agree about the difference with Rand being against them versus them being against Rand? You think that's a meaningful distinction, or is it just Tuon being fancy pants again?
No, I do think it's a meaningful distinction because Rand is willing to sue for peace. He comes back to them with meetings, and he doesn't exterminate them the way he could. However, this raid on the White Tower doesn't turn him against them either, right? Like, there is no difference because this is not the thing that he essentially goes away and becomes calmer and comes back and is like, all right, I know we had disagreements. Sure, I'll bow down. Cool. Now will you do what I say? Now will you ally with me? Right? There is this moment of like, he doesn't really give a shit about the raid on the White Tower. He's kind of like, I'm disappointed, but I'm not mad.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the difference would be meaningful if Rand and the White Tower had a different relationship. Like, academically, theoretically, this is an important difference. Practically, in this specific context, it is meaningless.
And in a lot of ways, it's helpful because it gets the White Tower united behind Egwene, who, quote unquote, allies with him.
I mean, she doesn't go over to the Dark One, so,
right. And he uses her, right? He uses her to gather all of the enemies of his philosophy and then convinces her to be his ally, and that's how he convinces everybody else to support him, right? That's his whole trick to get everybody on his side at the Fields of Marilor the first time.
Which is great, because he uses her as the Amerlin seat, which is just such a Dragon Reborn thing to do. It's not like he's using Egwene. He's using the Amerlin.
Totally. No, it's well done. It's well done.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I have, aside from doing a readout.
Yeah, go for it.
Rockin and Tow-Rockin were not normally used in this manner. Most raids would be accomplished by dropping the soldiers off at a staging point, where the Tow-Rockin would wait while the soldiers attacked and returned. But this raid was too vital. Yulon's plan called for a more daring assault, the likes of which had rarely been contemplated. Tow-Rockin with Damani and Suldam on their backs, attacking from the air. It could be the beginning of a bold new tactic, or it could lead to a disaster. We have changed everything, Fortuona said softly. General Galgon is wrong. This will not give the Dragon Reborn a worse bargaining position. It will turn him against us. And was he not against us before? Selusha asked. No, Fortuona said. We were against him. And there is a difference? Yes, Fortuona said, watching the cloud of Tow-Rockin just barely visible in the sky. There is. I fear we shall soon see just how big a difference that is.
Do you have anything interesting you want to talk about for the life stuff? News? I do think we have a few new Patreons, but I have not prepped that, but we should think about doing that for the next episode.
We should. I don't know. I've got a lot of
Status.
podcasts for stuff going on. I've mentioned before I'm doing Used to Sew podcast with my mom about sewing machines, sewing culture, and sewing history. That's going great. She started sharing the podcast into some of her sewing machine groups recently, and suddenly we're getting a flood of fan mail from people like we had not been getting. And so I'm really excited to go look at the stats to see how our download numbers are going up, because we've gotten like 4 emails in the last 2 days of people being like, love the podcast.
Nice.
Oh dear. Oh, good. To refer to what we were talking about before recording. The twin desires to both put your creativity out there and also to not be perceived. It's like, oh no, people are finding the podcast. I'm scared now. But also, that was the point. That was what we wanted. We asked for this. Like,
oh no, success. No.
Even though I have this podcast, that's a different audience. The overlap between the sewing machine world and the Wheel of Time world is very small.
Very small.
I do know that there are some people like Jesus Ferengi from this Here Very server is a big fan of Used to Sew. But as a general rule, pretty separate worlds. So it's like, oh no, a whole new contingent of people with a different worldview and a different way of approaching podcasts is now perceiving me, and what if they don't like me, all over again. But it's a very fun podcast, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of you for branching out from the fantasy book world. That's, a hard world to break out of, because it's very easy to just do another book series as a podcast, right? And something we've talked about, but
yeah. No, it was my mom's idea. She's like, I have all these rants about sewing machines that I want to go on. And so I was like, okay, let's plug in and do that. But it's been really fun. It's like, I can identify sewing machines now. Like, if you show me a Singer sewing machine, I'm going to be able to tell you so many things about it.
Nice.
Just because she keeps info dumping at me, and then I edit the info dumps, and it's really fun. So
by the time you're done, you know a fair amount about.
I'm learning so much stuff along with the audience. It's really, really cool. It's getting me in my sewing room a little bit more too. Like, she comes over and I'm like, okay, what are we sewing? Or like last time she was here, she was guiding me through refinishing a sewing machine cabinet that's for a machine that she's gonna bring me later. And I'm just really getting into like mending a bunch of Brandon's clothes that I've been not really getting around to for a while. And so it's like suddenly he has like new garments because they've been out of circulation for months, and now they have returned, and he's like, aha, I can wear these pants again, because I've done some cool visible mending on the holes in the pockets. And we've got all kinds of projects that we're planning on doing this summer, which will inevitably turn into podcast content. It's like this whole spiral thing of every time we get together and do sewing stuff, we're like, is this a thing that could be podcastable? And not in that like hustle monetization thing,
right? But
just in the like, oh, we're having so much fun. Can we share this? Is this a thing that's shareable? And we're on a mission to fight fast fashion. That's the goal. We are on a mission to find fast fashion in its bed and stab it.
You're all about the repair and the reuse.
Yeah.
The upcycle,
the thrift, the repurposing. I'm like halfway through a project where I got a whole bunch of really large t-shirts secondhand, like just whatever size, of colors that I liked. Because now I've cut them apart into just sheets of material that I can then use to make my own garments. Like, I want to make a whole bunch of a very specific undershirts. I'm like, okay, if I buy large t-shirts, just the back piece alone, that's just solid purple, is like a shirt of the size that I want. So I'm like halfway through that project. I have a bunch of disassembled shirts that need to be recombined into new garments. But it's really fun being motivated, and also the fun thing, you really tie into the whole autism world, we're doing parallel play essentially when she comes out here. We're like, okay, we're each going to work on our own projects, ask each other for help with stuff. Like, she needs my help with like cutting things because she has carpal tunnel, obviously. And then she helps me with like, wait, how do I start this machine? How do I set this? I just learned recently you're supposed to drop the feed dogs when you do buttonholes. And this is why all of my buttonholes looked like they got chewed up on the back, is because I was leaving the feed dogs up, and I wasn't supposed to do that. And like, I can't even tell you how many buttonholes I've made incorrectly. But it's just really fun to like do that autistic thing where we're like, we actually get a lot more done when we're hanging out because we're doing parallel play and actually getting through our giant basket of projects and then getting inspired to try new projects. And it's just really fun. And you can get a peek of that, a sense of that vibe, by listening to the podcast Used to Sew, linked as always in the show notes. You can hear me and my mom having that vibe. Mostly info dumping rather than crafting, but we often info dump about crafting. Mostly as an esoteric sense. It's not a crafting podcast like, and now get your hot glue gun. It's more a crafting podcast, and now go into your closet and find a project and tell us about it when you're, Mostly we've lately been talking about sewing machines. But in any case, if you want to hear what that whole vibe is like when I'm not talking about Wheel of Time, you can go to that podcast feed instead. That's what I have to report.
That's awesome.
What about you? You have life? Telling me earlier that the dog is behaving better as a pod dog.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, Harvey is. I mean, we're going on now 3 months. Today is his 11th month birthday, so he's 11 months old today. And yeah, he's turning into a slightly better dog. Still has some issues with jumping up on people and sort of nipping. He likes to sort of, if he doesn't get the attention he thinks he deserves, he will sort of like nip at people to get their attention, which can be anything from catching on their clothes to like biting their nipple. So we're still working on that because that's a really bad behavior. And so we're actually like not letting him greet people on the street right now because it's like, you have proven yourself untrustworthy. But other than that, he is, settling much faster. He's a much calmer dog. We're figuring each other out. He hasn't had any accidents inside. And he's just being a very sweet, very loving dog. Like he, loves to cuddle. He's laying at my feet. He just hates that right now me and Never aren't in the same room. So he's like coming in and saying, hey, you get up and go over there. And then he he wants everybody together. So he's turned into a very sweet. He's growing quite a bit. He is at 11 months. He is now 62 pounds. When I got him, he was 48 pounds at 8 months. So that's been about a pound a week pretty consistently in the 3 months we've had him. And so that hasn't really slowed down.
Yet? Yeah. Oh, okay.
So we'll see. We'll see. It's one of those things where a pound a week is hard to really judge exactly when that rate slows down. It's a pretty slow rate. We've only had him 3 months, so the data points are few and far between. And all the graphs say, he's probably going to max out around 75 pounds. But yeah, so I'm still holding to 75 pounds is the max. But yeah, there's a potential, right? Sometimes they say the bigger dogs can keep growing for like 2 years, right? And I think he's got some Mastiff in him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And here he's in and out again, by the way. Okay, I'm going to shut this.
Yeah, I just saw the tail.
Yeah. No, he's sweet and he's a pretty dog and he's very healthy, right? No skin issues or anything like that. He's
learning to be a pod dog.
He's learning to be a pod dog. Picture updates. Okay, pictures. Let's see. Let me pull up the photos. And then I promise we'll get into this chapter. I'm sorry we've been
Oh, puppy. It's like I'm talking to him, but it's only into your headphones.
Yeah, he can't hear me. So that's him. He picked up a chunk of bark off a tree that fell off a tree.
He looks like he's wearing a raccoon mask or something.
Oh, yeah. No, he has this mask. Let's see. Here's him sleeping on his bed on the porch.
Oh, and his butt has the same coloring as his face. That's so funny.
Here he is chilling in his crate, which he loves. It's not a punishment for him. He just likes to hang out in there.
No, that's really good to have a dog just like their crate. My brother's dog is like that. She just goes to her crate when she's had enough of everyone else.
And then there's him in a distance kind of playing with another dog. They were just having a blast. Here he is waiting to go out for a walk.
He's just so elegant.
Yeah, he's long. He's got
sprawling.
A line. Yeah.
But
if Timber had a hyena body, he had these sort of a short butt and like long leg, or short butt and short legs, and like big broad chest.
Yeah, he had tall shoulders, big barrel chest, and little tiny hips.
Yeah. Harvey definitely has, I'd call it a lion's body, sort of long back legs, loping,
and
hips, even height. Yeah, even height across.
Yeah, and just that dark face against the fawn body is just, and that white stripe.
And then a white stripe right down the middle, right? So it really does split his face in half.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, he does. He looks like two different dogs, right? He looks like a pit bull from the neck up.
He's a mashup of two dogs.
Yeah, and he looks like I think he looks like a Mastiff from the neck down.
Oh, yeah, he reminds me a lot of a Mastiff that I knew pretty recently. Just something about just the chunky lankiness that is very, very mastiff.
Which is why I'm like, I'm not sure how big he's going to be, because mastiffs can keep growing for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Those are big, long legs. You're going to have a big, long dog body on top.
Right. So I'll keep you guys updated about the dog news. But yes, he's a bit of a beast and a monster, but we take him to the dog park almost every day. He runs his butt off. He's learning tricks incredibly quickly. He's very, very smart, very, very trainable.
And eager to please.
And very eager to please.
Snuggly and clingy and yeah.
Mm-hmm. The only issue is he needs constant stimulation, and so it's very difficult for him to chill out for a minute. We still haven't really mastered that.
ADHD dog?
Yeah, totally, totally. And he's just entering that phase of dog. Everyone who says, yeah, dogs from like 6 months. You see, what is the meme I've seen, which is like 1 to 6 months, little puppy, 6 months to 3 years, velociraptor, 3 years to, old age, sweet dog.
Right.
And he's in velociraptor stage right now, for sure.
It seems like all social creatures really have like an absolutely bonkers velociraptor phase. Like every creature that has a lot of like socialness as part of its existence, and they're intelligent, they care about the other individuals in their group, like they've all got a hellion phase. It's just part of growing up as a social person. And yeah, some I guess do never hit the sweet dog phase, but in theory.
Yeah, and he's got the cutest little ears, and he's got this long tail with a white tip that he like holds up like a flag, which doesn't really show in any of the pictures I posted. He's got a super long tail.
Coffee table danger tail.
Yeah, but he doesn't swing it too bad. Because he holds it up, mostly.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see in that picture. That's definitely not straight out, that's arcing upward.
Yeah, no, anyway, that's dog news.
Dog.
Do I miss the hell out of Timber? Yeah, all the time. He was my special guy for a long, long time.
Gone but not forgotten.
No.
He was the first pod dog, but no reason for him to be the last, because dog.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and it's like, I can't live my life without a dog. I always have. Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yep.
Yeah. So, he wants attention all the time.
Speaking of attention.
We should pay attention to the book series that we're reading.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.